All right. You still there, Tamika?
Yes, I am.
All right. Um, that's the chat. Where do we see people if they've popped in?
So if you go to
So at the bottom, it
participants,
says participants
hmm
Participants.
on the
and look where it
left.
says
All
attendees.
right. We
So you
got
have
16
12.
people. All right. Um, attendees. There we go. Why don't you begin introducing Tamika?
Sure, I'll be happy to. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the workshop this evening. This is going to be Simple Steps 1, which is going to focus on starting a business. So we're excited that you're all here. Eric Overcash is the score presenter who's going to be facilitating the session this evening. Guess I can put my camera on so you can see who I am. Hello. Eric Overcash will be facilitating the workshop this evening, and he will be assisted by the lovely Rebecca Leo and me. So we will be answering your questions in the chat. And also, we have the lovely Yolanda from the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library who will be telling us all the tips about the library that you probably didn't know were there. And so you'll want to make sure that you pay close attention. SCORE is a valuable resource from the SBA, and I know Eric will go a little bit more into detail about that. But we'd love for you as you're joining in to just please take notes, whether you choose to use the electronic notes or you take paper notes or whatever that looks like. Please do so and ask questions. We want it to be a lively, engaging session. Rebecca and I can answer those questions for you. And if we need to pose something to Eric, we can totally do that for you. But please engage, whether you choose to use the chat box or the Q&A box. We welcome your participation. You may think that, don't ever think it's a foolish question because someone else may have that exact same question. So we want to make sure that you're being participating, asking questions, and getting the most out of the session so we can make sure your needs are met and you got what you came for. Anything you'd like to add, Rebecca?
No, I think that sounds great.
Okay, perfect. Well, then I'm going to turn it back over to you, Eric. I know you have the whole deck in session, and so we'll kick it back over to you. And folks, we are here for you. Our cameras will be off, but we are here listening to your questions on the chat. But enjoy the session.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Tamika, Rebecca, and I are so happy that you've joining us on this session for simple steps. It's promoted by SCORE, as Tamika said. Just a little background on myself. I'm a certified mentor and coach at Charlotte SCORE. I've been doing this for a little bit over 2 years. I have probably 20 to 22 mentees that I personally mentor. And part of that experience of mentoring to small business owners has given me the opportunity to present this simple steps to people who might be interested in having a mentor through SCORE. And I hope everybody who is attending this seminar is interested in starting a small business or already has a small business. This would be a great information. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and we're going to get going. All right. Tamika, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you see the slideshow?
I do not. I see that you've started screen sharing, but there it is. It's up
There it
now.
is.
All right. All right. So that means it just took a little while to resolve. Hopefully everybody can see us and you can hear me. So that's good too. All right.
Yes.
All right. Simple steps for starting your business. This is a slide deck that we're going to go through. We'll probably take about an hour and 15 minutes to go through the whole slide deck. We really do talk about the basics of starting a business. We've already introduced the presenters and the three of us and the representative from Mecklenburg Library. What we'd like to do right now, if you could take the opportunity, please, in the chat, state your name, and if you have a business or have a business idea, state that so we can kind of get a general idea of where everybody's passion is residing. So take some time to do that. I will, as I walk with you through this slide deck, I will be interspersing with experiences that I've personally had in mentoring my mentees, or perhaps my personal experiences that I've had as a professional when I was still working. I've gloriously retired for 5 years, so I wish that on everybody. Okay, SCORE. SCORE is a organization that is under the SBA. It's a national organization. It's been around since the late 1970s. There's multiple SCORE chapters in North Carolina. One of the benefits that we offer to anybody that wants to get involved in the SCORE, either as a mentor or in any other ways, are first and foremost, our mentoring sessions are extremely confidential. Whatever we say there, it's a one-on-one sessions. It's either video or in person. I personally do all mine via video just because I don't want to travel around the 5 different places in one day. So another way you can participate in SCORE is through the educational programs. This is one of them. This is the most popular educational program we have right now, Simple Steps. I encourage you to go to score.org, and you'll be able to view all other webinars and seminars that we're having. And the last thing is community outreach. Periodically, we have events that are sponsored by SCORE that the SCORE mentors go to, and it's a networking events for people who are starting businesses to come to and network with other beginning small business owners. I personally just attended one last Thursday, and there was about 60 people there, and there was a presentation, but the meat of the experience was everybody sat around at tables and talked. Well, I'm trying to do this, or I've done that, or what do you think about this? That type of interaction in our community outreach events. So in North Carolina, we have many chapters. Charlotte is the largest chapter in North Carolina, and then you can see the list of all the others. If you're not from Charlotte on this webinar, as it says there, you can go to the Charlotte SCORE and put your zip code in, and they'll direct you to the nearest chapter. All right, let's get going. So we are going to be doing a couple different things today. As you see, we're going to hit on 3 basic funnels of information. Starting your business. This is simple steps number 1. Simple steps number 2 is branding, concept, and marketing. And simple steps number 3 is financial matters and funding. These are all available. And if you, after taking simple steps, basic startup, we encourage you to take the other 2 so that you get more of a holistic idea of what SCORE is presenting to you as to start your business. All right, today it's self-explanatory. So also self-explanatory. We'll take you through step-by-steps, go down details on a lot of these bullet points. Okay, let's start with the myths. If you started a business, you might have had one of these myths in your head, or if you are thinking about starting your business, one of these myths should bounce around inside your head. These are very common. As an entrepreneur, you won't have to work that hard or put in such long hours. Holy bejesus. For those of you who currently have a small business, you understand that this is really not true. So for those of you who want to start a business, especially if you're currently working, you're going to have to put a lot of work into doing this. If you think about from the time management, if you're working 40 hours a week, you have a lifestyle, and then on top of that, you got to put together your business plan and start your business. So you will work long, long hours. And what drives you to put in those long hours is the passion that you have for what you want to do. My product or service is unique. There is no competition. Yeah, that's like, let me reinvent the wheel. Okay. One of the major questions that I ask all my mentees is, who's your competition? Who's your competition? We will talk more about the competition later, but if you think you have a very unique service or product, you might have a slight turn on something that's already available. It's very possible. Business owners can deduct everything so you don't have to pay taxes. I think in this 2026, I think we all pretty much will know that that's a myth. As a business owner, you won't have a boss. That's a very, very good point. It's true. You're out there. If you currently working or had quit, you work for someone. You took direction from someone. When you're working by yourself, there's no one giving you direction except you. However, when I was in my profession, which was institutional sales, selling very, very expensive security systems, I didn't have a boss. I just had to meet some numbers. But you know who my boss was? The client. And let me repeat that. Who my boss was? The client. If you get into selling a service or a product, you are going to have to answer to the requirements and requests of your clients. In that sense, they are your new boss. So business owners get to do whatever they want to do. Yeah, if you don't want to really work hard at starting your business, that can be very, very true. Then you're not starting the business, you have a hobby. So if you're passionate and you start the path and you have a concise, clear business plan, you know exactly what you need to do every day, day in and day out. Whether you accomplish all that, well, that's another question. All right, here's the reality. Extremely high failure rate. This might be skewed a little bit. I tell my mentees the rate of failure within the first 2 years is probably close to 60 to 70%. A lot of reasons why people fail in trying to start their business. I won't go into those reasons because they're all very individualistic to each person. So what do you need to be successful? All right. Not all these are specifically applicable to everybody, but as a whole, they describe a good success environment. Do you have experience in the field? Do you have education in this field? Strong work ethic. That's what I meant by working hard. Effective time management, ability to manage and multitask. Boy, you're going to have to multitask. You're going to be the CEO, you're going to be HR, you're going to be the operations director, and you're going to be the sales director. That's 5 right there. Willingness to ask for help and to take advice from others. This is where we at SCORE come into play most critically and important for you. We mentor you. Mentorship is a trust relationship that we work with you to see where you're at and guide you. Not necessarily guide you, but talk you through your thinking about how to start a business. Other considerations. You might have need of having tools and equipment. Most of my small businesses don't need that because they're starting from the very beginning and they don't really know what they need. All these other ones are very, very specific to a certain type of business. The ones that I want to point out most importantly is if you start any kind of business, check with the state and the county and the United States government for any licenses or permits that you need to have. So if you do need a financial stakeholder to begin your business, such as if you're going to start a franchise or you're buying a business, you need to think, you need to understand where that money's coming from. Most probably it's going to come from your own pocket, whether you have equity in your house saved up, or whether over a period of time you saved up cash from your corporate job. You need to have, if you're in a relationship right now, you need to have that person on board with you. It's very important. Stress from not agreeing with your partner about what you're trying to do will be a very critical component in the failure of your business. You need to have agreement and be able to, you need to have that agreement. All right, let's move on. So we're going to go through the different types of how you can start a business. As I said before, I have about 23 mentees. They all are starting a new business from scratch. It has advantages, as you can see. You can explore new markets. You can take your idea and put it into practice. Take your idea and manifest it into a business idea. The disadvantages is self-apparent. You start a new business, you have no existing customers. As we get further into this, you're going to see how sales is a critical component of starting a business. And if you say, "Well, I'm not really good at sales," you will learn through not wanting to fail, or you will understand that selling what you are passionate about comes very natural to you. And you're taking a risk, especially if you're investing some kind of money, you're taking a risk. If you fail, you got to figure out what is plan B. All right. The next thing is buying an existing business. There's some really great advantages to this. When you buy an existing business, you're buying their business. So you're buying their accounts receivables and their accounts payables. You're also buying their customer base, and you're also buying their operational functions. You get the chance to review their financial documents to see if it's something that would present a viable option for you. The disadvantages, I think, are very apparent. You don't know hidden issues. You don't know, do they have a good reputation? The inventory they have, is it obsolete? Those are pretty high disadvantages. So if you are going to buy a business, please have professional help in looking at an existing business. Or you can buy a franchise. These are still very, very viable. There's significant differences between buying a franchise and buying an existing business. Most strong in the significant differences are that when you buy a franchise, you're buying into a company's method of doing business. So therefore, you will pay them a certain amount of money. They can probably control the marketing. You can't market it anywhere you want to. They also may control the geographic location of where you can have your business. However, buying a franchise gives you the advantages. They're going to give you a total program package that they will put you through the training. They will walk you through the first year or so of make sure you're running it right. So that's really helpful in starting that type of a business. Home-based businesses. These are very convenient. Home-based businesses. You can work a flexible schedule. You can work around children. You can work around someone who is a partner who is working. It does have tax advantages. I talked to your accountant or someone who understands home-based businesses tax advantages about that. The disadvantages. I know in I know in the community I live in, we have an HOA, and in the HOA, they they specifically prohibit having home-based businesses. The others are, if you're used to going to work, you're used to going in and seeing people that you know and working with those people that you know. If you're working in a home-based business by yourself in your house, it does present some isolation issues that you need to recognize and that you need to address if they do come up. Financing, we'll get into that later. And last thing is definitely family distractions, as I said before, with kids, husband, dogs, cats, whatever. You feel like going out and mess around in your garden? Well, there you go. Online businesses. This is similar to a home-based business, lower startup costs. Customers the customer base is able to accept what you're selling because it's for sale on other online businesses. Very low barriers to entry. All you got to do is develop a good website, and especially if you're selling I'm at a loss for words here. Inventory, you can set up a relationship with vendors so that when you sell something, they'll send it out immediately to the customers. I've had a couple of mentees that's what they do. Non-for-profits. All right. I'm very familiar with non-for-profits. I think I have 3 of them right now that I'm mentoring. They are different, but I want to point out how they're the same as a for-profit. The business of a non-for-profit is the same as the business for a for-profit. They all have a business plan. You need revenue to come in. You need customers to support you. The revenue generating revenue is different because it's mainly through fundraising, that type of activities and grants, and finding sponsors. The big difference with a non-for-profit is first of all, IRS code 501c3, which does take a while and it does cost some money. But one of the requirements of a 501c3 is that you must have a board of directors. It's required. And those board of directors must have insurance to protect them. And those board of directors oversee the activities of the non-for-profit, which you might be the executive officer. So in one sense, even though you started this, they could present dilemmas for you to continue to operate the non-for-profit. At the end of the year, all expenses and all revenue must zero out. Oh, and this is another important thing people may not realize. If you do start a non-for-profit, you can pay yourself. Absolutely. If there's money available, but you can definitely pay yourself. Okay, let's move on. I mentioned this in the very beginning. When you're starting a business, and I'll probably be going through the rest of this seminar using my examples as someone starting a business, not buying a business or a franchise or something like that. This is all about starting a business. You wear many hats, as I indicated before. I want to point out in the very beginning, you may not need to wear all these particular hats. Let's take an example. Say you're starting out and you want to offer cleaning services, and your target market is residential or commercial, doesn't matter. In the very beginning, you're going to have to be the CEO, and you're going to have to administer whatever paperwork you need to do. However, in the very beginning, you may not need human resources, and you may not need the production and fulfillment. Or even in the very, very beginning, you may not need accounting. I tell most of my mentees who just start a business, get an Excel spreadsheet. You don't need to pay for QuickBooks yet. It's a big thing. Yet, in the very beginning, you want to start as lean as possible. So yes, you're the CEO. You're going to be the sales director. You're going to be the customer service. You're the face of your organization when customers call up. But eventually, as your business grows, you will have to address each one of these um, areas of activities. Branding. Branding. It's name recognition, qualification of product, market identity, advertising, target audience. Who is your consumer? When you start a business, you should be thinking about branding in the very beginning, because eventually the branding will help immensely in getting the name and the object of your business out to the world itself. Marketing helps branding, and it's very similar. In fact, all three, marketing, branding, and sales, are all very, very close together in their uniqueness of starting your business. But what I tell my mentees, get a good marketing plan together, make some sales. That will start your branding. People will start to recognize what you're selling, whatever it is, whether it's a service or a product. They will start to recognize, and that builds momentum. And as you build momentum, then you can start to tag on name recognition. You can start to identify market identity. Where is your market? How much? What is my typical customer look like? So branding is very important. Marketing. I'm not going to go into this very much because it says it's covered in workshop number 3, marketing. We're very, very lucky if you do choose to get into the mentoring program at SCORE Charlotte. We have a subject matter expert. All she does is comes and talks to small business owners about marketing, and she is fantastic. All right, this is my belly work. Sales. So if you think of starting your business as a progression from the very beginning, when you have the idea, you're going to go through startup activities, whatever they are. Just get ready to start your business. Eventually, you're going to start your business, whether it's a soft launch, whether it's a hard launch. You're going to start your business, and when you start your business, you will probably get customers immediately, because we will network. We will network with everybody you know, or if you're currently working, the word will spread about what you're doing. But you will reach a point where you will have to address the sales aspect of your business. Sales is basically a contract you have with your customer to provide a service or a product at a price. Simple as that. All these aspects: contact and connect with customers, find prospects, make presentations, prepare bids, close deal, process orders. That, in a sense, is this total sales process. The most important part for people who are starting out in business is, after you've identified your customers, where are you going to find them? And then once you find them, how big of a funnel can you open up to gather as many potential customers as possible? Because the national sales rate is 20%. That means 80% of the people you talk to won't buy, only 20% will. You might think you're really good at sales. All right, onesie, twosie, threesies, but go talk to 100 people. In fact, when I was working in institutional sales, I would do customer acquisition every day. And my goal was to try and make 3 or 4 appointments every day to see customers. And eventually that starts to steamroll, so that you get a lot of prospects. You're making presentations. So if you're making a lot of presentations, the chances increase of you preparing bids, and then close the deal. This is probably to me, this is the most vital part of a business is how are you selling your product or service? Okay, let's take a little in-depth look as to who you are. When you start a business, you got to be very honest with yourself. And, we all know who we are. Let's not fool around. We all know who we are. So when you start a business and you get a basic structure of your business, you should ask yourself, okay, in this structure that I'm trying to create, where am I kind of weak in? Am I weak in the sales? Am I weak in the operations? Maybe it's the accounting. So score.org, we offer a lot of webinars to give you information about each of these points of potential weaknesses that you might identify as in yourself. Are there duties that don't fit your skills? Can you hire employees or take on a partner? That to me is kind of out in the future. Anyone who's starting a business is going to do everything in the very beginning. And plus, you have no money to hire an employee. And also I find that most of my mentees are very not confidential. They want to do it themselves. They want to do it themselves. They want to prove they can launch this business. And that's where SCORE mentors come in, is they help you prove that you can do it yourself. So eventually, as your business grows, you might realize that there are skills that you can't do, so you need to outsource, take on a partner, or outsource those tasks. That's a huge, huge, huge commitment that you need to be very, very careful about. It's taking on a partner or outsourcing those tasks. Okay. Business location. That only really applies if you're going to if you start a business and you want a brick and mortar. If you want a brick and mortar, I've had some mentees in Charlotte that have attempted a brick and mortar. Some of them have succeeded in finding a place. Others haven't because of the cost of real estate in Charlotte, either rental or purchasing. So price your product, your service. Pricing is pretty huge because we all feel we want to be in that low point that everybody's going to say, oh yeah, your price is really good. Well, let me point out a couple of real world experiences that I've had with that. I used to be in the print industry, and we used to do bidding for print jobs with the United States government. Every job that was awarded was awarded to the lowest bidder. Think about that. Also, pretty much all the real estate you see around here that contractors are involved with, those go to the lowest bidder. Okay? So is that, in the long run, does that work out to be an effective, problem-free product or service? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The other thing I want to point out about pricing is my own personal experience with that. Is I used to, because I knew this for a fact, in my first or second meeting with a potential client, I would tell them, I'm more expensive than anybody else. I'm expensive. Why would I do something like that? Well, am I shooting myself in the foot? No. The reason I'm doing that is when you get down to the point, if you remember back in the previous slides where you go through the presentation and then you work up a bid, when you present that bid, you don't want sticker shock. You don't want them saying, oh my God, I didn't know you're so expensive. You take that off the table. Now, if you are more expensive than everybody else, then you need to be able to provide the reasons that your service or product fulfills the right need for your customer. It's very important. You need to provide the reasoning why your product or service fulfills the need that your customer had. Okay, this is understanding your competitors. one of the first things I talk to my mentees when I first talk to them is find out who your competition is. Critical for a lot of different reasons. The the evident reason is you find out what their pricing is, so you can get kind of an idea of where you should land your pricing. The second thing is you can go to their website and check them out. How do they do this? How do they do that? Oh, I do it differently. Oh, they're doing it the same way I'm doing it. Also, if you're on their website, or if you read the reviews, which is really, really great, you can find out where their weaknesses are, so that you can say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that, with my potential customers. The other thing I say is this: find out who your competition is, meet them. If it's applicable, meet them. Go out and have a conversation with the competition. Because if you have a basic belief about business, that there's so much business out there that everybody can have as much as they want, then by meeting with your competition, you can start to perhaps talk to them in a competitive way, but more of a way where you both might be able to assist each other. Okay, this is the boring part. All right, so there's different forms of business organizations. I always, in my first conversation with mentees, I ask them, have you made your entity legal yet? So in the very beginning, the simple way of doing this is, yes, I want to be a sole proprietor. I want to start my business, and I'm going to have my name on the shop, and I'm going to have my name and on the IRS tax records, and the whole ball of wax. Or have a partnership too, either sole proprietorship or a partner. The problem, not the problem, but the issue that might occur is, sorry, I went too fast, is that by switching to an LLC, which I'll say all my mentees are LLC, limited liability. Oh, Christ. Oh, Eric had forgot what the C stand for. But anyway, what this does is that we live in a litigious society, unfortunately. And if you start a business, and if you do get in a situation where you are in a litigious situation, the people going up against you can only come after the assets of your business, not your personal assets. Whereas if you were a sole partnership, they could come after your personal assets. And the biggest one that always stands out is your house. As far as S corporations, I always recommend to my mentees, don't bother. If you get to the point where you're running $10 million, $15 million in annual sales, and you have 15 or 20 employees, talk to a tax accountant and talk to an attorney about the advantages of going into an S corp type of situation. There we go. All right. As I said, and if you remember a couple slides back, be aware of the government regulations. This is really important. Business licenses or approval. Whatever type of business you are in, check it out at the national, the state, the county, and the municipal level as to whether you need a license or whether you need some kind of approval. Labor laws. If you're not employing anybody, and I'll say this also, the mentees that I have that will employ people say they're going to 1099 them. They're not going to employ them as employees. This seems to be the way new businesses are doing it. Immigration laws, IRS and Social Security and withholding payments. That's if you are have employees. However, That also applies to you if you are in a non-for-profit and are taking a salary. Be aware, IRS, Social Security withholding and payments would apply. Insurance, so important, so important. I always advise my mentees to get a general liability insurance policy on whatever they do. If you're using your car to transact business, talk with your insurance agents to see whether you need additional coverage because you're using your car as in your business. Umbrella liabilities, workman's comp, health, life, business interruption, professional liability. Professional liability goes back to the non-for-profit. Okay, let's move on to the business plan. Business plan is very important. For those of you that have a current business already, I hope you have a business plan. For those of you that want to start a business, if you decide to get a mentor to help you start your business, each of us mentors have the SCORES business plan template that we can give you. And our business plan template is very similar to any kind of business plan template that you can see or see online. What I say about business plans is this: it's your plan. You need to put it together. You need to be as detailed as possible. As detailed as possible. If you and if there are areas that you don't quite understand in your business plan, if you are in a mentoring program, you can ask your mentors. If you're not in a mentoring program, just leave it there. Leave it there. Think about it in relationship to your business. Do some research about it, and maybe you'll come to some kind of clarity as to how to fill that portion of your business plan in. So once you get your business plan done, it now becomes a guidepost or a guide for you. The businesses that I've talked to that I've mentored, and they've been in business for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, they tell me they review their business plan every 6 months. As far as the management tool, is that if you're going to provide a service, whatever that service is, and you get going, and all of a sudden 8 months from now you get another idea and you want to follow that path, and that's fine. Look at your business plan, see if it collides with that current business plan, because if you get another idea, you might be getting off track of your current business plan. And remember, your current business plan gives you the focus of where you should be going with your business. It's very easy to get sidetracked, especially in today's world. And the last thing about business plan, if you ever get to the point where you need some kind of funding or you're looking for partnerships, the first thing anybody is going to ask you is, please provide us with your business plan. And this is what they get, the contents. It's a table of contents. Executive summary is very important. It's your vision. What is your vision? What are you trying to do? The section 1 is, what is your business model? Now, the vision is what you want to accomplish in your business. The business models, how are you going to accomplish that? And then the financial forecasts. If you're just starting a business, these will all be projections, and the projections will be based upon if you can understand what your pricing strategy is. And then the last thing, supporting data. If you have any kind of studies that facilitate what you've written in your business plan, notate them at the very end of the business plan. All right. So we've touched upon this. I encourage all my mentees to have a business account. Don't commingle it with your personal account. And I actually talk long and hard about what to do with your money that you make in your business that goes into your business account. A lawyer we've talked about, just because if you run into issues, an accountant, once you get going and you have revenue and you have expenses, if you can't do that any longer, it gets overwhelming. That's when the accountant should step in. An insurance agent should be from the very beginning. Absolutely. And a business mentor, well, that's us. Okay. It's 45 minutes. Okay. This next section we are going to do is a self-assessment. It's a quick self-assessment. I will jump over that to here. So what I want everybody on the call now is to look at all this. If you can take a screenshot, what it is there's a question. My product service is servicing an unmet need, and it's a range of score between 1 and 10. And I'll be coming back to the library section. So as I said in the beginning, after you've read those, after you looked at those various questions, and you feel that this is something that I want to not feel, you are committed to starting your business. Let's just say that you're committed to starting your business. We have sessions 2 and sessions 3 that you can find on score.org. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing. And go back to Zoom. There we go. All right, Yolanda.
Yes.
Take over. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Yolanda, as I've been introduced, and I'm part of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. So before I get started, I know the invitation to this program is open to more than just Mecklenburg County. So I wanted to go ahead and point out that, or if y'all wanted to, I don't know if y'all can do reactions right now. Just a show of hands of people who don't live in Mecklenburg County, or if you want to drop it in the chat. Okay, so there are quite a few of you. All right, so I just want to point out, just going into this, that if you do live in North Carolina, that most of these resources that I'm going over are going to be available to you through your library. If you are in South Carolina, I'm not as sure about your library systems. But if you do want to get access to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, then you can purchase a non-resident card, which would get you access to these resources. But I do want to go ahead and just say, first check with your library to see what resources they have, because your library probably has what you need in order to do and make your company the best that it can be. So once again, I just want to say I am working for the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, and I am here to tell you why you should have a library card if you are in business. And so hopefully everybody can see my screen, but
Yes, we can see it.
awesome sauce. All right. So we are here because of that business plan that y'all were just hearing about. We want to be able to fill in those gaps. So the library, no matter if you're with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library or the library system in your county or state, the library has resources that has the data that you can use to fill in any gaps that you might have in your business plan. And since the public library is paid for with public funds, you already paid for it. So why not make use of it? So we're going to take a look at an example just to see how resources can be used in the library to help build and fill in those gaps of your business plan. So just a little poll. Does anybody have a pet? And if not, if you don't want to share, that's fine too. Okay, we do have some pet owners, and I keep on forgetting there's a term that they're using now. You're not a pet owner, you're like a pet carer. Okay, yes, look at everybody who are loving on their pets. All right, so we see that there's a lot of interest in people with pets. Awesome. So, if I decided or I thought, okay, there are a lot of pet lovers out there, maybe I should start my own pet supply store, then I can go to a resource that is available through NC Live. And I'm talking to my North Carolina residents. So, NC Live should be available at your library. And that resource is called ABI Inform Collection. And it's a great resource for finding out information about specific industries. And what we have here, I'm showing the first research industry profile, which is created by Dun and Bradstreet, and this is specifically for pet care services. And going through this industry profile, I can find out that 70% of households in the US have at least one pet. So that looks like I might have, a population to work with. If 70% of households own a pet, then they probably need some pet supply stores out there, right? So that's the type of information I can get from ABI Inform Collection. Another resource that should be available through NC Live is Data Axle Reference Solutions. This is a great resource that has a lot of information about individual specific companies. So let's say I decided to use Data Axle to maybe look up how many pet supply stores there are in my county. So when I look in Data Axle, I find out that there are 269 269 other businesses in Mecklenburg County that are already selling pet supplies. So it's a pretty a pretty populated field. So I have a lot of competitors, but it's a good to know, right? Now, while I'm also in Data Axle, I can get a sense of where those pet supply stores are located. So right now we're looking at a heat map, which is another feature found in Data Axle. And so it's telling me where in Mecklenburg County all of these pet supply stores are located. So I can see where they might be grouped up and smushed together. And then I also might see some opportunities where there aren't so many pet supply stores in Mecklenburg County. Now, another resource that's available through the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, this one may not be available to all libraries in North Carolina, but there's a resource called Simply Analytics. It's a great tool to find out demographic information. Now, if you don't have access to Simply Analytics, you do have access to Social Explorer, which is based off of census information. And so that is available through NC Live. It won't have probably the pictures like you'll see in Simply Analytics, but it does give you a lot of that demographic information that you'll need. So if I'm using Simply Analytics, I can find out, I can get a map that shows me where people are who are spending money on their pets. So it gives me this color-based map, right? And so when I look at my legend, I can see all of the darker areas are where households are spending the most money on their pets. Also in Simply Analytics, like I was saying, it's going to give you demographic information, so I can get information about the population, but it's also giving you some very specific information. You can see over here on the left side, it's telling me pets, toys, hobbies, and playground equipment, how much money was spent on that in 2022. And it tells me in Mecklenburg County how much was spent, how much was spent in North Carolina, and how much was spent in the nation. And it has different little categories of information points that might be useful for you when you are building the case to create your business.
Yolanda,
So sorry.
sorry to interrupt you. There's a question in the chat that said, well, it was in the Q&A box. Can you see how many laundromats there are in York County, South Carolina? Is that information available on the tool?
So you can do a search of businesses. I don't think that Simply Analytics is the strongest at finding that information. Axle is probably going to be the better tool to use for finding specific numbers of companies that are available. Simply Analytics, I'm looking more at like customer data, but business information is available in Simply Analytics. You'll just have to do a little bit more digging, a little bit more searching, and I don't feel like they have the most up-to-date information as opposed to Data Axle. That's just a personal preference. Once you get into the different resources though, you might find out differently. All right. And let me see. Any other questions? All right.
No,
All
just
right.
feedback from someone who just said the tools are awesome.
Oh, good deal. I'm glad to like be able to share this information because even if you aren't part of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library System, libraries do have these resources available for small business owners and entrepreneurs. So we definitely want y'all to make use of them. With Simply Analytics, with this information that I have here, I can find out that there are people in Mecklenburg County have spent almost $500 million on their pets. That was back in 2022. And they spent almost $35 million on pet services. So it looks like, although there are a lot of pet supply stores out there, there are a lot of people who are spending a lot of money still in Mecklenburg County. And so I'm thinking maybe this might still be a good choice for me to create a pet supply store. So if we're pulling all of that information from those different resources, so we looked at ABI Inform, Simply Analytics, and Data Axle Reference Solutions. Some of the information I found you can see here on this slide. $500 million in sales, right? We found out there were 269 competitors from Data Axle. From ABI Inform, we found out that 70% of households have pets. So in Mecklenburg County, that would be about 300,000. Okay. So if we do some calculations, we find out that per competitor, they probably can grasp or take a piece of that pie. Their piece of the pie would be about $1.9 million, right? And that one competitor would be able to serve over 1,000 households. And then also from Data Axle, because we're looking at a database that collects information about specific companies, we could also get a list of businesses nearby to invite to the grand opening. So that's what we mean by like there's data out there that you have access to and it's available at no cost because you've already paid your taxes through the library. And so we want to make sure that you have that opportunity to take advantage of those resources that you've already paid for. All right. And so also just want to take a second look at those maps that we found. On the left, we have the map that was in Simply Analytics. And then on the right, we have the map, that heat map that I showed you from Data Axle. And so if we're comparing those two maps, I can see where people are spending the most money. And then I can also see where there isn't a lot of supply stores. So if I were building a brick and mortar, then that might be where I want to focus my build or start looking for realty in that area because there's a lot of people that are spending their money, but they don't really have a place to go um, in those specific areas. All right. So somebody asked, does the resource she's referring to also help if you're opening a virtual business? So Simply Analytics is going to be helpful, yes, for you, because you're getting to know about your customers or the customers in a specific area. So you can find out if they're using your resource or you can kind of figure out what your customer looks like using Simply Analytics. And then, yes, Data Axle does have, if it's a virtual business, would be in that database as well. Then, of course, ABI Inform is going to have information about all types of industries, whether it's virtual or brick and mortar. But this was just an example showing the maps. If you were looking um, for a space, a physical space, this might be a good way to try and figure out where to locate that space. Right. And if we go back to Simply Analytics, once again, like I said, it is a great way to find out demographic information. If you don't have access to Simply Analytics, Social Explorer will give you this information as well. But Simply Analytics does make it look a little prettier. So you can find information about age groups, education, housing. It's just a wide range of information that allows you to better predict what a customer might do, or just kind of learn more about where your ideal customer might be or how you can reach them. All right. So once you kind of figure out what your customer looks like or how to reach them, you might be wondering what you can say to them. And maybe all of you have your Instagram, you have those tools, you have that down. But if you were looking for things to say on your Instagram posts or your website, you might want to use a resource called Masterfile Premier, once again available through NC Live. This is a great place to find articles from experts. And so you can use those articles to find quotes that might be helpful. So if I'm thinking about a pet supply store, if I'm selling the perfect pet bed in my store, I can go to these articles, find these peer-reviewed articles, and get an expert quote to post on an Instagram story, or just to have on my website near that pet bed that I'm advertising or promoting that I'm selling. Great. Sorry, let me see if I can grab this question. Okay. So the library will, and most libraries will do this, they will try and connect you with local organizations that can help with the funding or financing. And I'm sorry, my score volunteers might have more information, but on the library's website, we do have organizations that provide funding that you can look into, but we don't specifically give funding. And so maybe that question wasn't for me. So sorry if if I answered that question, it wasn't for me. Now, some other resources that we have at the library include access to local and national news. So, of course, I'm with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, so we're going to promote the Charlotte Business Journal and the Charlotte Observer. But you also have access to the Newsbank, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. Those are available through NC Live if you're a North Carolina resident. So always very helpful. Just having that local news, though, helps keep you in contact and lets you, keep a pulse on what's going on in your local area in regards to business. Now, once you've kind of started setting up your business, you're going to have to continue to educate yourself. And we do have resources that allow you to do that, including LinkedIn Learning. And these are going to be specific to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. LinkedIn Learning and Universal Class, they have great tutorials for a wide range of topics. And so you should definitely make use of those if you are a Charlotte Mecklenburg Library library card holder. And then something else that might be really great, and I was just on a one-on-one with someone who found this resource really valuable, is the Gale Directory Library. It has an encyclopedia of associations. So this particular person was looking for a specific group of people and wanted to advertise to a specific group of people, but didn't want to have to advertise one by one by one. Instead, they wanted to go to a conference or some type of meeting where they could meet the group of people in one place. And so this Encyclopedia of Associations is a great place, a great resource for that. So you can find your individual customers, but find out where they hang out as a group. And you can, just rent a booth at a conference so you can talk to as many people as possible to promote your product or service. And of course, we are the library. So I did want to, bring you back to our homepage. As I mentioned, we do offer one-on-ones. You don't have to be a Charlotte Mecklenburg Library card holder in order to register and sign up for these one-on-ones, but once again, we may have different resources than what is available at your library. So you probably definitely want to talk to your library system. But beyond those one-on-ones, we have a whole host of different business development programs, including the simple steps for starting your business with SCORE in the library. I know at the University City location, they're working with Grace Marr and the Microsoft Corporation, and they're doing a whole series of AI in your business. So always visit cmlibrary.org in order to find some of the events that are going on at the library. And then beyond those programs, we are a library once again. So we have books. We have books about business. We have ebooks, audiobooks, videos, and more. So definitely check out our catalog to find those resources. And just in a nutshell, to answer the question why you should have a library card if you're in business, it's because we're here to help you fill in the gaps for your business plan, find customers, learn new methods, and we're just here for you to succeed. So we're here for you. We want you to take advantage of this resource.
Yolanda, before you wrap up, there was one question in the chat, and then I had two that I think the group would benefit from. One was, how much does an out-of-state membership for the library cost?
So it is $45 a year. If you're 62 or older, it's $35 a year.
Okay, which actually dovetails into the second question. So you don't have to live in the county to get a library card with
Correct.
Charlotte Mecklenburg.
Correct. You would just have to pay for it if you're not a Mecklenburg County resident.
Excellent. And then the third question was, are the same type of digital resources available for all libraries?
So as I mentioned, in North Carolina, you probably have access to most of those resources that I mentioned through NC Live. Simply Analytics is something that my library system pays for. LinkedIn Learning and Universal Class are also other resources that we pay for outside of NC Live. So those may not be available to you, but the majority of those, if you live in North Carolina, you should have access to NC Live and you should have access to those resources.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that is all that I have, but please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to drop my email address into the chat. But otherwise, look forward to hearing from y'all or just hearing y'all's success stories in the future.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Eric, before you wrap up, and there was something that folks wanted to see too. I know you're going to say maybe some closing words to Yolanda, but there was a request for a slide to be shown again.
Yes, which one?
And the questions at the end.
Thanks, Rebecca. Which one was it? Let's
Oh,
One of the
yeah,
last ones.
yeah. Let me show that one. Let me pull it up on my screen. There we go. Come on, Eric. There we go. I will share my screen now so that people can see this. All right. Give us a brief period of time. Is it up yet, Tamika?
It's a
Yes.
All right, there you go. So this is just a self-assessment. After you've listened to the whole simple steps, and you have either, I saw in the comments, um, quite a few people said they were thinking about a business, but they weren't too sure. I want to point something out. If you're thinking about a business, but you don't have an idea, as a mentor, we are not geared to help you discover what that idea might be. We can truly mentor you effectively if you have a business idea. Take any kind of business idea. So you actually have to come up with an idea. So the self-assessment is really great as to kind of like get a holistic idea of where you're at in your process. Okay, Tamika, you want to have any closing comments at all?
I would just like to thank everyone for joining us today. Let me put my camera back on. Thank you all for joining us today for this session. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulty for a second. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you learned something new, and that you not only just take notes from what you heard, but actually put it into action, right? You learned much from Eric. You've learned much from Yolanda. You want to make sure that you actually execute on the things that you've learned. Yolanda, thank you very much for that presentation. It was very insightful for the library, telling us exactly what the tools are, how we can leverage those, how it is not back in the day where you had the old, I'm dating myself, the old card catalog and the library is really a tool that people have slept on for many years, and it is really a resource that is underutilized. And so as you saw just a glimpse of that, if you need help getting some one-on-one guidance for that, please connect with Yolanda. She put her email address in the chat. Eric, as you see, is a very, very knowledgeable mentor, and he has very many on his agenda and roster. But maybe you can get on his list if he has room on his
Absolutely.
calendar.
I got room for 20 more.
Okay, great. Well, he has room for 20 more, which is exciting. Some of you
Now,
asked about, oh, go ahead, Eric.
I want to mention one thing that we did not mention at all.
Sure.
Tamika, Rebecca, and I do mentoring, and it's a purely volunteer basis. We are not paid at all to do this. We do this because we love to help not young, but business owners starting a business in Charlotte. It benefits everybody in the city of Charlotte, the people starting their businesses. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it's free. Your tax dollars do pay for that. If you need any type of special field of expertise, sometimes we do have mentors that do have that insight. So if you're looking for specific marketing insights or bookkeeping help specifically, I know Eric said he's strong in sales. If you need help with lead gen or things that help with ideas on how to generate sales or increase sales or diversify your revenue streams, that could be something he can help with. Rebecca and I have just met, so I know she has resources that she brings to the table. I have a financial services background, so banking and lending is my background. Rebecca, I'd love, maybe you'd like to share what your background is in case people want to sign up for anything with you, or is
Sales.
it general knowledge? Sales. Is that what you said?
Sales. Yep, here goes in the chat.
Excellent. So therefore, folks, you have many mentors that can help you with a variety of topics, but we do encourage you to, if you don't have a mentor, please sign up for one. Put in your zip code at score.org. No matter what county you're in, once you put in your zip code, it'll direct you to the right chapter, and then it will help you find a mentor that will be assigned to you, and they can meet with you at your convenience. So if you have a day job or if you are available during the day, they can make it convenient for you. Thank you again for your time and attention. The deck should be emailed to you afterwards. Give it a couple of days before that comes. The recording will be available, as Rebecca indicated on the chat. It will be on the website, so that's score.org/Charlotte, and you can find a copy of this recording there. So if you want to go back and catch some of Eric's points or Yolanda's points. And that is really all I have to share at this point. Rebecca, anything from you? Eric, anything from you?
Sometimes we do co-mentoring. Eric, you might want to talk about that as well.
what's that?
Sometimes we do co-mentoring. They were going to
Oh, yeah.
say if they want to learn about
Um,
different things.
If you do get into the mentoring program, occasionally the mentor will bring in a co-mentor. Like I would bring in, well, I would bring Rebecca in to add more to our discussions with our mentee about it. Some of our mentors use co-mentors a lot. So it's just a way of our mentees getting a different perspective from another person with expertise.
Excellent. That sounds great. Excellent. Well, you've heard it here first. Thank you very much for your attention and time. Yolanda, again, thank you for your expertise. And then I guess any closing words from you, Yolanda, for the library before we wrap up?
None for me. Just, visit your public library wherever you are. We do have resources for you.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you. And thank you, Eric. I'll turn it back over to you in case there's anything else you'd like to share before we wrap.
That's it. That's it. I am going to close the program on 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody.